says you are live. Well, let's go. This is not going to be a long one today, family. We're going to be short and brief. I'm just going to play one little song and let the beat build and be right back.
Been in the game for quite some time, writing words and spitting rhymes, twisting up verbs and dropping dope lines. I'm here to take my shit back, motherfucker, gon' give me what's mine. Ow. You wanna do what I do? You gotta do, you do. You wanna talk the way I talk? You gotta talk, you talk. You wanna walk the way I walk, yeah. But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try. Who's Jack? 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 Do you wanna know? You like the stylish clothes I wear? Hold up, bitch, don't touch my hair. Don't touch my hair, girl. You smell the fragrance of my cologne through the air. A bona fide Mac, know what you know about that, Jack? You wanna do what I do? You gotta do it, do it. You wanna talk the way I talk? You gotta talk, talk. You wanna walk the way I walk? Yeah. But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try. Who's Jack? 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 Hold up now, you must think you slick. You talking about that, but that ain't this. You think that you're magic, hocus pocus with all your tricks. Wanna impress me, bitch? Drown a fish. You bitch, you wanna do what I do? You gotta do what you do. You wanna talk the way I talk? You gotta talk, talk. You wanna walk the way I walk? Yeah. But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try.
All right, all right, all right. Let's get on into it. My family's here. Hit that number 3 or 2 if you can hear me well. I want to just be running my mouth and no one hears me. All right, I see Stork. Stork is quick on the trigger. Thank you, Donnie. What's happening? Thank you. So Donnie Williams, Stork. What's happening? Sleep quietly, Doctor Banoob. Um, the homie Squally Vision, Luxu. All right, let's get on with this. So I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. I got my corn cob pipe today. So just from reading the title and looking at the comments, right? Stoic just off the rip throws the correct and proper answer out, right? Archaic humans had no race, right? Okay, he's on the line. Now, what I don't do, I see your comment, Luxu. What I don't do is focus on the word dark. There's dark people all around the planet, whether they're black, Caucasoid, Asian, what have you. It means nothing. I'm talking about black folk, right? And we know what black folk is. Black folk just don't mean dark. We have to be clear, okay? I've been around the world. I've been to the Philippines, Thailand, and I've seen many Thailand people, Filipino people, darker than light-skinned blacks here in America. Way darker. There's Mexicans, darker than light-skinned blacks. Prince, Sarah Seti. These are light-skinned people who half of Cambodia is darker than, right? So I'm not talking about light and dark per se. Um, I'm focusing on black folk. So I made this video because I want folk to see something. And this is a topic that the entire community for decades have been running from, right? You see also I have in the caption, in the title, who was ASSELAR man? I can't get not one person in the conscious community to have a discussion or live stream on anything related to ASSELAR man because, let me tell you, ASSELAR man, just before we get started, is considered the oldest phenotypically skeletal remains of a Negroid type or a sub-Saharan African type. And it's about 9,000 years old at best. So black folk in the conscious community especially do not like to talk about ASSELAR man because it makes them seem or appear that they are younger than the other races around the world. And we're going to get into that, right? Right? So, where's my pad? I think I had something. What I mean by archaic humans, Homo neanderthals are archaic humans. Homo erectus are archaic humans, hominids, right? Homo means human, if you didn't know. So these are archaic humans that lived on Earth prior to us, Homo sapiens sapiens. They're way, 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 way earlier than us. Archaic humans don't have a race. Anyone assigning a race to an archaic human is bullshitting you, biased, and has an agenda. We cannot assign races to archaic humans. They more than likely varied in skin color, right? So, archaic humans evolving to be what we are today, I'm pretty sure that they were in between stages. They weren't necessarily black or white, and I'm going to play this guy speaking about this because a lot of genetics is not my lane, but I like to read about it, just get the basic understanding, right? If someone says haplogroup K, I just need to know, hey, what geographical area is haplogroup K? And then I identify like that. And I try to keep it simple. What's up, ZTS Media? Yeah, Congoid Negroid, right? So I want to play a video of this guy speaking on color variations, archaic humans, and he basically just is saying that whether you're Afrocentric or Eurocentric, you're both full of shit. You both are liars. You both are biased, right? As we know, Afrocentrism came about to combat Eurocentrism. One was racist, and another racist ideology came to combat one racist ideology. Both of them racist, but you should know that Eurocentrism stopped decades ago. You ain't gonna hear no person from England saying, "Hey, I'm the ancient Egyptians." They been stopped that shit long time ago. Afrocentrism continues. Let's just be honest about that. It continues in a fervent. I fucked up that word. You know what I mean? It continues strongly in 2023. Afrocentrics don't give a shit about the hardcore facts and truth. They care more about revising history for their own agenda and foolish pride. Okay? Let's be clear. Now, I'm going to start this with playing a video talking about a guy talking about skin color. And let's be clear, people talk about the African human period or the Green Sahara, right? Um, which is changes in the weather uh, uh, um, and these changes happen repeatedly over millions of years, right? So one day one area may be a hot spot. Then 8, 9,000 years later, it may not be a hot spot. It might be a cold spot. So even the equator argument doesn't work when you're going back in ancient times and talking about archaic humans and things like that. The equator argument doesn't work. At one time, prior to the Native Americans coming into through the Bering Straits, down into Canada, down into the United States, down into Mexico, and all the way down to the Caribbeans and into the Brazil, the entire Western Hemisphere. At one time, there are things called ice ages. People don't live in an ice age per se. That's just the Inuit, right? So all of Canada and half of North America was covered by an ice sheet called the Laurentine Ice Sheet. Equator didn't matter 15,000 years ago. It wasn't warm and just all tropical in half of North America and Canada 20,000 years ago. You can look it up. It's called the Laurentine Ice Sheet. Nobody was goddamn over in the United States and Canada. It was frozen. When it melted, approximately 15,000 years ago, then the Native American type came in and filtered on down and populated the entire Western Hemisphere. This is just a history of migration patterns. This is just a history of weathering patterns. It's just a reality, right? So, knowing that, that means over the millions of years dealing with archaic humans up until modern humans, skin color and pigmentation fluctuated all up and down. It is what it is. So let's listen to this guy real quick. Let me go ahead and play with it. All right. And let's go. I hope you guys hear the volume well. So I'll be quiet. And I'm going to push play. This goes about 4 minutes. Some of you guys probably have heard it, but I would like to have a discussion on this one day. I would like other people to have a discussion on this one day, but Afrocentrics probably won't discuss this topic because it doesn't fit their agenda. But let's go.
Black or dark skin wasn't the first, and there is no such thing as an original skin tone. In fact, there were various shades of skin tones in ancient humans in Africa. Modern so-called anthropologists, geneticists, and Afrocentrics are dishonest when speaking about original human skin pigmentation. There were many types of...
Stop! Do you see what he just said? Let me just rewind that part.
Afrocentrics are dishonest when speaking about original geneticists and Afrocentrics are dishonest. Modern so-called anthropologists, geneticists, and Afrocentrics are dishonest when speaking about original human skin pigmentation. There were many types of ancient hominids in Africa, Asia, and Europe who all had a vast number skin adaptation to their environment. There was not single genetic coding for a single skin tone in ancient humans. Let's look at the evidence. Skin tone has varied greatly among humans for at least the last 900,000 years. So concludes an analysis of the genetic variants associated with skin pigmentation in people from several regions of Africa. The latest findings suggest that some particularly dark skin tones evolved relatively recently from paler genetic variants, underlining how deeply flawed the racist concept of people with whiter skin being more advanced really is. Black people didn't come first, nor white people came first. All these skin tones existed together for millennia. White skin being more advanced really is. Black people didn't come first, nor white people came first. All these skin tones existed together for millennia. Black people didn't come first, nor white people came first. All these skin tones existed together for millennia. Black people didn't come first, nor white people came first. All these skin tones existed together for millennia.
He said black people didn't come first, white people didn't come first. All these skin tones existed. Let me just repeat how he said it. Let me get it straight.
White skin didn't develop 10,000 years past. All these skin tones existed together for millennia.
He said all them skin tones existed together for millennia. They have new research on this, but let's go ahead.
White skin didn't develop 10,000 years ago, how some racist ethnocentrics and Afro-geneticists have suggested. The paper behind me is this study of which I'm speaking about, titled Loci Associated with Skin Pigmentation Identified in African Populations, Nicholas G. Crawford et al., 2017, published in Science and has a contribution of over 38 scientists from around the world. Nicholas Crawford and Sarah Tishkoff at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia recruited around 1,500 ethnically and genetically diverse volunteers living in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Botswana for their study. Each person agreed to provide a DNA sample and have their skin pigmentation measured. The combined data allowed the team to find 8 sites in the human genome that are particularly associated with the level of skin pigmentation. Together, these sites account for about 30% of the variation they found in skin pigmentation among the volunteers. For each of the 8 sites of variation, there existed a genetic variant associated with paler skin and a variant linked to darker skin. 7 of the paler skin variants emerged at least 270,000 years ago. 4 of these arose more than 900,000 years ago. Whiter or paler skin in humans is much older than what crazy scientists have suggested. The latest thinking is that Homo sapiens emerged in Africa about 300,000 years ago. The new findings mean that relatively pale skin tone variants predate the appearance of our species. This might surprise some geneticists, says Tishkoff. Previous studies of a skin pigmentation gene called MC1R had led many geneticists to think that dark skin color, which is thought to protect against UV damage, is a fixed and always been present in all people of African descent. But this proved that this ain't so. This means that there were ancient African populations who had pale skin and that there is no single skin tone or original color of skin. But this proved that this ain't so. This means that there were ancient African populations who had pale skin and that there is no single skin tone or original color of skin. Research into the genetics of skin tone and other traits has a significance beyond understanding our species' evolutionary history. There are racists who want to associate skin pigmentation with intellectual traits or traits dealing with moral behavior, says Nina Jablonski at Pennsylvania State University. At the same time, there are racists who suggest that black people were the first people on the planet. This ain't so. Original humans had a vast array of skin pigmentation, not just black or white or any other skin tone. There are many racist ideas being spread by white and black people on the internet. It's time to attack and discard these racist and ethnocentric ideas. From the genetic study, it reads, we identify previously uncharacterized genes and variants associated with skin pigmentation in ethnically diverse Africans. These genes have diverse functions, from repairing UV damage to playing important roles in melanocyte biology. We show that both dark and light pigmentation alleles arose before the origin of modern humans and that both light and dark pigmented skin has continued to evolve throughout hominid history. Finally, there is no time in human evolutionary history in which all humans were just black or just white. History. Finally, there is no time in human evolutionary history in which all humans were just black or just white. Since skin color even predates the arrival of modern Homo sapiens. Other hominids who came before us also had this vast array of skin tones. White people didn't magically evolve 10,000 years ago, nor black people are the oldest on the planet. We had always had this diversity even before we walked upright evolved into modern humans. Our real ancient ancestors, the ape, was covered in hair or fur, but he didn't worry about his skin color like modern racist humans do. Thanks for watching and follow me for more biological anthropology education in which we attack racist beliefs. Black or dark skin wasn't the first, and there is no such thing as an original skin tone.
All right. Come on back to me. Now, that was interesting. Now, maybe on your own time you can listen a little deeper and do some fact checking, but I pulled up a lot of things he said. This was one of those studies in the science talking about loci associated with skin pigmentation identified in African populations, right? Let me come on back to me. Now, let me give you a little common sense, people. Everyone has an agenda and everyone is in competition with each other. And I've learned to say to myself, what the hell am I in competition for? I'm just trying to learn and gain some knowledge and wisdom. I'm not trying to compete with whites and I stopped that shit, right? So what science told us is that humanity started in Africa. They never said black folk was the first human. Never. They said humanity started in Africa. There was a migration out of Africa, and these ancient humans populated the rest of the world. They left out of Africa and they admixed with archaic humans called Neanderthals, Homo Neanderthals that were in Asia. Came back and migrated in and out and in and out over, thousands and thousands of years. Right? So, what makes you think those who migrated out of Africa, was a nappy-head black person? Where did you come up with that? Let me tell you why. In general, when black folk hear African, all they can think about is a nappy-head black person. A kinky-haired black person like me or the majority listening to me. Most people don't understand and didn't understand when they say Africa has the most genetic diversity, what do you think they're saying? Everybody's just not neat, kinky, or nappy head black folk in Africa. There's other diversity. So when you're African, you have to understand North Africa has never, ever, 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 and this is a shocker to many when I started saying this. People were going erratic and going crazy trying to debunk me, and to this day still haven't debunked it. North Africa has never, ever, 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 ever been Black Africa. Period. I've challenged everyone on this, and no one has came up with a. I go further. I say not only has North Africa never been Black Africa, there's never been ever any nappy, negroid, kinky haired people who were indigenous to Europe, Caucasus, the Near East, Levant, North Africa. What else did I say? Europe, um, or West Asia. Never. Not one tribe indigenous to them lands. Because black, nappy, kinky haired people didn't come from them lands. We came from sub-Saharan Africa. North Africa has never been Black Africa. Now, show and prove some shit, Chief X. Okay. Let me go here and find it before I show all y'all what I got up here. One second. This is what I mean. Well, let me share this now. Wait a minute, is that it? Let me just show this while since I'm here. Because I have ASSELAR man in the title. Ask your friends and your scholarly friends why they've never had a discussion on who ASSELAR man is. And I'm going to just show you why. Because ASSELAR man is one of the earliest known anatomically modern human skeletons with negroid phenotype living in sub-Saharan Africa. Around 9,000 years. That's as far as they got. Elaborate, Chief X. Okay. One second. Let me make this smaller. Hold on, y'all. Bear with pimping. One second. Let me just state this before I get to proving myself. North Africans have a very much higher amount of Neanderthal DNA than sub-Saharan Africans who barely have, but they have a tinge. But North Africans have a way higher amount, similar to Europeans and Asians. People who were outside of Africa and had that admixing going on with the Neanderthal, and we have what you call back migrations. People move in and out, move in and out. At this time, there probably was no nappy, kinky haired black people. But why do North Africans have this Neanderthal DNA, but sub-Saharan Africans didn't, because the North Africans were the ones going in and out of Africa and admixing with the rest of the world. So when you really think about it and just calm your nerves and just sit back and think and relax, when you think about outside of sub-Saharan Africa, black nappy head people are in very, very small numbers. I would guess about 5% at best. Okay, so look out. Let's just go outside. Forget North Africans for a second. Just let's use some logic. Go outside of Africa. Black people are in small numbers. In Africa, just say North Africa, Morocco, but maybe about 1% black folk in Morocco. Egypt, about 1% of black folk in Egypt. You're rarely there. You may see 100 people and then one black person. So when you go outside, you talk about areas like, let me look at my map, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman. You're in small numbers. You're in small numbers in Iran. You're in extremely small. You're not probably not in that many numbers in Turkey. You're in these places nowadays in Europe because of the slave trade. Okay, but before all that, in the trans-Saharans, you guys weren't out there. So all of Asia, Russia, China, India, Australia, you guys are would be that people would think is black. You can say Papua New Guineans. Okay. I don't even consider the Solomon Islanders, but I'm gonna throw you a half a point for the Solomon Islanders. Okay. Tasmanian people, half, even though they're dark skinned. Throw you one in Oceania somewhere. We'll just give you this small, not even 1% of the Philippines, called the Negritos in the mountains. Let's throw one more in there because I can't think of it now. Maybe about 5 groups. Oh no, wait, I forgot. The Andamanese Islands. Maybe about 6. I don't even want to give you the Dravidians, but I'm going to be generous. About 7 very small populations of groups of black folk outside of Africa. You're not even 5% of the rest of the world outside of Africa. You weren't the one who was doing the migrating out of Africa. Would you say, Ricky? No, you must have came here late. That's the question, Rick King. Or Fair Skin. Maybe I'm missing something. Cohesive, damn sure. Not white. Maybe you guys are having a conversation between yourselves. Who said it's not about race? Rick. Maybe you're taking some things I said out of context. Because in the beginning, if you were here, I said I'm talking about black folk. And who you're not and where you're not weren't. Okay? So focus for a minute so you can understand what I'm laying down. Okay, so let's look at some data and some science, right? Okay, Rick, I hear you. Let's look at some data and science. Let me share my screen. Let's just go in order. Let's start with this. I'm gonna throw one Wikipedia in here. Once cats get to crying about Wikipedia, that means they losing the argument. So they gotta try to bash Wikipedia. Whenever a nigga crying, oh, ain't Wikipedia, that means he done lost the argument. So this is the genomic ancestry of North Africans supports what? Back to Africa migrations. So Chief X ain't just making up nothing. This is what the world of academia agrees with me. And they agree with everything I've stated since I started this video. And we're going to prove it. Genomic ancestry of North Africans supports what? Back to Africa migrations. What? Abstract. North African populations. Can y'all read this or is it too small? I'll read it for you. But abstract. North African populations are distinct from sub Saharan Africans based on cultural, linguistic, and phenotypic attributes. However, the time and extent of genetic divergence between populations north and south of the Sahara remain poorly understood. Here we integrate multi-layered history of North Africa by characterizing the effect of hypothesized migrations from the Near East, Europe, and sub-Saharan Africa on current genetic diversity. Here's the part you need to understand. We present dense genome-wide S&P genotyping array data, 730,000 sites. No, that's not it. Let me just keep reading. From 7 North African populations spanning from Egypt to Morocco and 1 Spanish population. They just go on sweeping across North Africa all the way to Spain, right? That's what they're saying. To Egypt to Morocco is across North Africa, right? Across North Africa is where migrations were taking place since millennia, okay? We identify a gradient of likely autochthonous Maghrebi ancestry. If you don't know what Maghrebi means, Maghreb is just like from Morocco all the way to Libya. Okay? Maghrebi ancestry that increases from east to west across North Africa. This ancestry likely derived from back to Africa gene flow more than 12,000 years ago. So this is before there was an Egypt, before there was a Sphinx. There's no Egypt at this time, okay? These are just people who's been migrating in and out of North Africa for 12,000 years they're talking about. Okay? Prior to the Holocene, the indigenous North African ancestry, you hear what that says? Indigenous, because there's never been any indigenous Negroids there. The indigenous North African ancestry is more frequent in populations with historical Berber ethnicity. Not you guys. Berber, or the proper word is the Amazigh. In most North African populations, we see the substantial shared ancestry with who? The Near East. So it says, in most North African populations, we see substantial shared ancestry with the Near East. You niggas ain't from the Near East. And to a lesser extent, sub-Saharan Africa and Europe. You guys are sub-Saharan African. So a lesser extent, the genetics in North Africa has some sub-Saharan components. To estimate the time of migration from sub-Saharan populations into North Africa, we implement a maximum likelihood dating method. Let me just skip to it. Okay, here we go. We estimate that migration of Western African origins into Morocco, like West Africans into Morocco, began about 40 generations ago, approximately 1,200 years ago. That's when your genetics got into Morocco, around 1,200 years ago. And that was through a Saharan slave trade. Other than that, you weren't there. I'm sorry. A migration of individuals with Nilotic ancestry, those people of Nubian ancestry and below the Sudan and down in them different Nilotics. A migration of individuals with Nilotic ancestry into Egypt, which is North Africa, occurred about 25 generations ago, approximately 750 years ago. Therefore, you weren't the ancient Egyptians. Your blood flow just got into Egypt 750 years ago. Okay? Now, let me move on because I got a lot of this shit. Where do I want to go next? Okay, here goes another article. Ancient genomes from North Africa evidence prehistoric migrations to the Maghreb from where? The Levant and Europe. I'm sorry. Not sub-Saharan Africa. Ancient genomes from North Africa evidence prehistoric. before history. Migrations to the Maghreb. What did I tell you the Maghreb was? Just say from Morocco to Libya. Okay? North Africans, Mediterranean people, same shit. Prehistoric times, migrations to the, this is before there was a pyramid built. These people were there. Migrations to the Maghreb from what? Both the Levant and Europe. In prehistoric times, it wasn't you guys. You guys are new people into North Africa. Okay? Let's just read what it says. The acquisition of agricultural techniques during the so-called Neolithic Revolution. Let me just make this quick. I should have had this set up already. It's basically repeating what the other article says. Okay, this is an important part. Among Eurasian ancient populations, early Neolithic Moroccans, 9,000 BC, early Neolithic Moroccans are distantly related to Levantine Natufian hunter-gatherers, pre-pottery Neolithic farmers, right? So when you see Levantine, they talking about the Levant, around the Near East, right? Not y'all. Let's go on to the next article. I don't want to take too long. All right, what is this article talking about? Genomic ancestry of North Africans support back to Africa migrations. More back to Africa migrations and people migrating in and out of Africa through that corridor by the Levant in the Near East. Okay? This is all over the place. This is not Chief X making up nothing. I'm just telling you who was migrating in and out of Africa, and it wasn't sub-Saharan Africans. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is just talking about ancient DNA of North Africans. Let me just blow this up and see what it says. Okay, ancient DNA. It says what? Unlike sub-Saharan Africans, not you guys, North Africans have similar level of Neanderthal DNA to South Europeans and West Asians. Remember I told you that? Okay, there we go. Ancient DNA. Unlike sub-Saharan Africans, North Africans have a similar level of Neanderthal DNA to South Europeans and West Asians. I said that earlier. Because when you leave out of Africa, and when they first let us out of Africa, people were admixing with Neanderthal. And this is why North Africans have a similar level of Neanderthal DNA to South Europeans and West Asians who were outside of Africa. And that's why y'all don't have none. That much Neanderthal DNA. You weren't outside of Africa. You were in sub-Saharan Africa, landlocked. I'm just trying to teach some real history and science. Listen here. And it's telling you right here, it's pre-Neolithic in origin. They've been running in and out of there for 12,000 years, and I've showed this. Even further back, but I'm just trying to keep you simple for a second. So these same people are the same people who built the Sphinx, which is right there in North Africa. They've been there. When the Sphinx was being built, wasn't no black nappy-head people around there. It was these North Africans. Okay. It was found that modern North Africans derive mainly from back to Africa populations from Eurasia, from before 12,000 years ago. Fam, that's just facts. Where was it? You got to deal with that. It was found that modern North Africans, modern meaning today's North Africans, derived mainly from a back to Africa population from Eurasia from before 12,000 years ago. But more recent than 40,000 years ago, which seems to represent a genetic discontinuity with these earliest modern humans. I mean, this just smacks you in the face. What can you say? So let's just move on. Now, let me read the top part of this real quick. Now I'm on Wikipedia. The other things were in Wikipedia. Genetic history of North Africa. Not the genetic history of sub-Saharan Africa, of North Africa. Genetic history of North Africa has been heavily influenced by geography. The Sahara Desert to the south and the Mediterranean Sea to the north were important barriers to gene flow from sub-Saharan Africa. They're saying you were cut off from getting your gene flow fucking with them. It's right here. The Sahara Desert to the south and the Mediterranean Sea to the north were important what? Barriers. Barriers to what? Barriers to gene flow from sub-Saharan Africa and Europe in prehistoric times. So before history, you had barriers to your gene flow all throughout North Africa because you weren't there. Stop letting these Afrocentrics lie to you. Chief X gonna tell you the truth. Stop letting Jonathan Owens, Smash Rockwell lie to you. Stop letting the Amin Ra Squad lie to you. Stop letting Sanetter, Tariq Nasheed, Brother Polite, and all these frauds, stop letting them lie to you. The world is at your fingertips with the internet. This is so easy to look up. All you got to do is Google back migration into Africa, and you got articles and dissertations for days. However, North Africa is connected to what? West Asia. Y'all ain't West Asia. That's why I say it's a transcontinental country, Egypt is. It's connected to Africa, North Africa, West Asia, the Mediterranean. Three things can be all true at one time. Right? So let's continue on with these daggers. The genomic analysis of current day. More heartbreaking news for you Afrocentrics. The genomic analysis of current day North African populations reveals the existence of trans-Saharan migrations with different origins and dates. I think this one goes into trans-Saharan and how the trans-Saharan slave trade brought that black blood up in there. The Sahara Desert has acted as a what? This is another article, not Chief X. A barrier to human gene flow between north and central parts of Africa since aridification, since before prehistory. Nonetheless, some contacts between both sides of the desert have occurred throughout history, mainly driven by commercial activity, money making, selling of human cargo and people and shit, right? Mainly driven by commercial activity. Part of this was the infamous trans-Saharan slave trade, which forcibly brought people from south of the Sahara, sub-Saharan Africa, to North Africa from Roman times until the 19th century. Although historical records exist, the genetic aspects of these trans-Saharan migrations have not been deeply studied. In present-day study, we assess the genetic influence of trans-Saharan migrations in current North African and characterize its amount, geographical origin, and dates. We confirm that heterogeneous and generally low-frequency presence of genomic I'll screw that up. But anyway, low frequency presence of genomic segments of sub-Saharan origin in present-day North Africans, acquired in recent historical times. Recent times, they're saying they acquired it. recent historical times. And we show evidence of at least two admixture events. How many? Two admixture events. What are those events, Chief X? One dated around 13th and 14th centuries between North Africans and West Sub-Saharan like source, similar to current day Senegambian populations, right? And the other was the 17th century, involving Tunisians and an Eastern Sub-Saharan like source related to current day South Sudan and Kenyan populations, right? Time and location coincide with peaks of the trans-Saharan slave trade activity between West African empires and North African powers. That's when your genetics mainly got up into there. That's when black folks started showing up anywhere in North Africa was through slave trades. Sometimes in Roman times, sometimes, and this is with North African times. You guys weren't there in any kind of numbers. That's why Morocco's 1% black, if that. This is why Egypt is 1% black, if that. I'm sorry, this is just the reality. Let's move on. I can go on all day long with this article, but I don't want to be here too long. Next. There we go, what I said earlier. Let me blow it up. Because I got ASSELAR Man in the title, right? What does that say? The oldest known skeleton of a black African. ASSELAR Man is believed to belong to the Holocene or recent epoch. Some scholars consider the oldest known skeleton of African black. Now, mind you, we've been talking about archaic humans. This is way later on in time. Distinct chronology. The oldest skeletal remains of an African black, a Negroid black of our phenotype is, they say, ASSELAR Man. So if you guys are science-based, you would fight against science saying otherwise. This is not me talking. I'm just reading science to you. So I'm telling you, it wasn't the black man who was migrating in and out of Africa during humanity in the outer Africa theory. They didn't say out of Africa theory was black nappy head Negroids. That no one ever told you that. You came to that conclusion on your own because you never knew that North Africa was never black Africa. You just thought all of Africa, because we're just slaves and confused about our identity, you just automatically in your head, you just thought all of Africa was black Africa. But no one taught you North. People tried to tell you, but y'all get all upset and shit when somebody says other people on the continent of Africa besides black folk. Amazigh and Berbers aren't black folk. Okay. Let's get back to business. So when they do talk about North Africa, this is would be a North African. He's a Berber man from Morocco or Amazigh. He's not a black man, although he's melanated. His people been there 12,000 years, 30,000 years. It is what it is. Okay. Where were we? Oh, this is one of my. I'm gonna give you a peek. My website gonna go live next week, and I'm doing some sports attire. So I'm representing Colorado Buffs. That's one of the logos for the babies. Colorado Buffaloes football team. I'm just gonna give you that. That's it. Well, all right. I didn't want it to be too long because I could have been going. It's so many damn articles and journals and scientific information I just had up. I would have been here for hours reading through all that. Let me just read a few of these comments. I'm not sure who you referring to, B Money. Said the white man called Africa the dark continent. Yeah. The dark continent, he sure did. Since you mentioned it, bam. Henry Stanley through the dark continent. So, to the early European explorer, one being Henry Stanley, here's another. This is Stanley and Livingston, who were early explorers of the Congo. The dark continent was considered sub-Saharan Africa. When the Arabs came in, they called all of sub-Saharan Africa was called Sudan, land of the blacks. They weren't just really speaking about Sudan as we modernly know it now. Sudan was a name of all of sub-Saharan Africa, and Sudan literally means in Arabic, land of the blacks. More logic for you. If Arabs came in, Egypt, only 4,000. They didn't take over. They just took over. They just changed religiously and politically. They didn't displace anyone. They just blended in and changed it. The sword of Islam came. But it wasn't like war and killing and displacing people, right? So, I forgot my damn point. Oh, when the Arabs came in Egypt, they was fine. You even look similar. We might have some genetic similarities. They never called Egypt land of the blacks because it was not the land of the blacks. Wasn't no blacks there, unless you was doing some hard labor and they snatched you from Nubia and you said run that gold up to us. Some of that commercial activity for luxury goods. So they skipped way down, and once they got to sub-Saharan Africa and seen Sudan, land of the blacks. Ask somebody that. Why they didn't call Egypt land of the blacks? Why they didn't call nowhere in North Africa land of the blacks? The Greco-Roman world said Ethiopia. All of sub-Saharan Africa in the Greco-Roman world was basically in general called Ethiopia. Not just the modern day geographical Ethiopia we know, Abyssinia, no. But sub-Saharan Africa was called those two things. Ethiopia, the burnt face, and Sudan. And early Europeans, or Western Europeans, came and called it Negro land. Negro to that Latin world, the Portuguese and in Spain to that European Latin world, Negro means black. We have a trifecta, family. We have a trifecta. You have the Portuguese in Spain titling it Negro land, sub-Saharan Africa. They didn't call North Africa Negro land. You have the Arabs coming in and calling it Sudan, land of the blacks. And you had the Greco-Roman world up out of the Mediterranean calling it Ethiopia, the burnt face. Three people. They never called nobody in North Africa or Egypt any of that. Logic, common sense, science, right? He said Kevin Hart gonna be mad about that. Now, if anybody honestly watched this little presentation I did today, they're gonna be like, damn, how can you beat this? This is why they don't want me on their channels, man. See, I'm stopping the Hotep hustle with these daggers, right? What y'all talking about in the comment? DJ Lil Rock, Baltimore's best. He said, what the hell is this? When somebody's live, you never have to watch them from when you clicked on it. DJ Lil Rock, Baltimore's best. I don't do that. I said I cannot start a book in the middle or at the end. I can't do it. That's just me. I have to rewind it back and start reading from the beginning so I can follow in line and get a better understanding. So if you didn't come here in the beginning, just rewind this sucker. Other than that, you came here for the chat. You see what I'm saying? This is the psychology of it. um, what you say, Luxa? Nah, yeah, he's in there. Okay. Let me read a few more comments. '90s Raven, you must have been late. I had dagger after dagger. You just sitting here lying to yourself. Stop it. Yeah, you may not be comprehending then. If you're just saying the article he's reading is how the I don't know if you're talking to somebody in the chat or me. I may be confused, but the article he's reading is how the present day North Africa. Okay, maybe you're talking to somebody in the chat. Let me shut up. What up, George Garrison? JPTV, what's happening with you? Are you welcome, Oblivion? See, little presentations like this, like I laid this out where it's really undisputable. So it's like I've asked anybody to name one indigenous Negroid or black kinky haired tribe that was ever indigenous to North Africa, Europe, Levant, Near East, Caucasus, West Asia. Name one black tribe indigenous in lands ever. And nobody can come up with one. Everyone is stomped and mad that they're stomped. 2 years later, nobody has answered this question. But people are acting like they did. Only thing folk came up with it was Nubians, which is kind of laughable. But I can understand how you want to squeeze Nubians in as being North Africans. It's a reach. Yeah, Katie came late too. She can't tell you what I'm wrong about. She can only lash out because she wasn't listening. Usually, intelligent people say, hey, you're wrong about this because this. Such and such this because of such and such such. I mean, like, this is how you have an adult convo. What am I jiving about? What name one thing that I jived about tonight? Hard cold is one saying there's no such thing as a sub-Saharan African. If there's no such thing as a sub-Saharan African, then there's no such thing as as Eastern Europe. There's no such thing as Southeast Asia. There's no such thing as West Asia. There's no such thing as North Africa. Geography just doesn't exist. The Sahara is a desert. Sub means below. You can play with words. You can't play with words. It just means below the Sahara. It's just giving you a geographical idea of where it's at in location on the continent of Africa. And it's below the Sahara. And there's a group of humans that live in that area that are called tropical Africans. Not all of it, but West and Central Africa is tropical Africa. And I'm a tropical African descendant. Science. It is what it is, you know what I'm saying? People have been trying to make it seem like sub-Saharan word is racist or no such thing. What they're trying to do subconsciously and consciously is they trying to remove all lines to make the whole continent and everybody on the continent of Africa one people and one thing. Therefore, they can steal and claim others' histories by saying we just all African and one people. Therefore, if they remove the Sahara and just say, then they can be North African, they can be this, they can be that, they can be anything they wanted. No, it's not happening. Not on my watch. It is a sub-Saharan Africa. I'm a proud sub-Saharan African descendant. You niggas just not gonna be able to be North Africans. Not tonight. Now, after you get off here, you can lie to yourself and go somewhere else and manipulate and deceive black folk and do what you want to do. Yeah, I do receive super chats. I'm able to get a super chat. Make it happen. But more so than that, hold on. But more so than that, hit my PayPal. Feel free to PayPal. Uh oh. Dallas beat the Sixers tonight. This is the game I'm waiting for. Clippers are about to play Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors is my team. Well, you know what? Let me be real. Number one, Lakers. Number two is Golden State. But we are one big family. We are one big Cali family. Matter of fact, one is God and one is Jesus. Lakers is God, and the Golden State Warriors is God's Son, Jesus Christ. That's the order. We share players, we've shared coaches. Luke Walton, we one big family. So if the Lakers doing bad, my default is the Warriors. When Lakers on top, I'm rolling with the Lakers. Family, send your brother $1 and stop being cheap. Jesus Christ. And hit the like button, y'all. Um, yeah, I would put the link in the chat and do a quick panel, but y'all keep me here too long. I'm getting hungry again. I got a stuffed bell pepper warmed up right now. Stuffed bell pepper is delicious from where did I get that? Costco. Half a bell pepper is about 10 times more vitamin C than an orange. Bell pepper is probably the highest amount of vitamin C in a vegetable and or fruit, if you didn't know. You eat half a bell pepper, you got all the vitamin C you need plus some. What you don't use, you'll piss the shit out. You know what? Game coming on, y'all be good. I'm out.